Hello, welcome to this video, Dhammapada, chapter 5, Balavago, verse 10, consecutive numbering 69. Let me call up the analysis of it. Here we are. Madhuva manyati balo yava papan pachati. Yadacha pachati papam attabalo dukkham nigachati. Again. Madhuva manyati balo yava papam napachati. Yadacha pachati papam attabalo dukkham nigachati. So, manyati balo, the bala, for these purposes we translate fool. The fool thinks, or the immature person is the original meaning as we've discussed. The fool regards it, or treats it like honey. Madhava manyati. Manyati, to think or to conceive, is from the root man. So he thinks honey-like. In other words, he thinks of it, he conceives it to be, he regards it as honey. Madhuva manyati. Now, let me explain this prefix, a suffix rather, va, and the verb manyati. Call up the iPad. Manyati. Let's deal with that first. It's from the root man, a well-known root man, from which we get mind, mens in Latin, thinking. Why has it become, why is there this double N with the double N in Pali? The reason actually is really quite simple. In Sanskrit, this is a class 4 verb, which means that it's a verb that inserts a y that on its face looks like the y of the passive, but in fact it's just a class 4 passive. So class 4, Sanskrit man, it becomes, and it's an atmanepa verb, atmanepada verb, manyate. It's perfectly regular as class 4. The class 4 verbs just insert a y. For example, the verb tap that we've had, that can be class 1 or class 4 atmanepada. So it can be tapati, and it also, you can have tapyate. It's regular. But what happens when you get this manyate? By standard phonetic mutation, and what would be 2 separate consonants and a y in Sanskrit becomes the double ny in Pali. That is why the manyate becomes manyati in Pali. Just means he conceives or he thinks. Madhuva. We've had this root in Sanskrit, the suffix rather, it's an adjectival suffix, van, meaning possessed of or having, can also mean like. For example, bhaga, which often means good fortune, bliss or blessing, one of its meanings. We have Bhagavan, blessed, the blessed one, Bhagavan, the Buddha. In Pali, that final R drops, the final N drops out, so that's why we have in Pali Bhagava. The neuter of that, Bhagavat, the neuter and the combining form as well. So the Bhagavat Gita becomes by Sandhi Bhagavad Gita, the changes to a d before the following voiced consonant. That explains the Bhagavad Gita, as that same vat. The vat in Sanskrit, because Pali doesn't like a word ending in a T, that becomes va as well. So it becomes in form similar to the masculine. Bhagavan, Bhagavat, and Van, Vat in Sanskrit both become va in Pali. So madhuva in Sanskrit would be madhuvat, honey-like. That could be this ending vat and the neuter. If you put vat on the end of a noun or an adjective, or on the end of a noun, it can make it into an adjective. And on the end of a noun or an adjective, put vat in the neuter form, and it can turn it into an adverb. Thus, madhuvat, in honey-like, as honey, kind of adverbialize it. He considers it honey-like. It could also be a neuter noun here. It could be either. A neuter adjective. I treat it as being adverbial here because he thinks honey-wise, makes it into an adverb. Ooh, lovely honey, manyati. Madhuva manyati. So he regards it as honey-like, or as if he were thinking about honey. Balo. Yava. Yava, so long, I mean, so much as, but also as an expression of time, so long as, to the extent that, so long as something lasts. It correlates with tava, yava, tava, for as long as something, tava, for so long. So yava papam napachati, for so long as literally the sin does not ripen, so long as the evil deed does not ripen. So the pachati is the verb. We have the vipaka that we had in the previous verse, meaning the ripening out. When the deed is done, the consequences aren't yet apparent. The vipaka, like a fruit. The imagery is of a fruit, vipaka. As it ripens, it expands out. Vipaka. It expands. The papa, evil kamma, does the same. As a noun, you talk about the vipaka. With a verb, you can talk about the pachati. Literally, it cooks, or the alternative meaning ripens. Why is it pachati with a double cha? Let's go to that. We have pachati. Right. The root pach. This is another of those ones where it can be either a class 1 or a class 4 in Sanskrit. So in Sanskrit, it can be pachati, or it can be a class 4 atmanepada. Pachyate. This pachyate can be either the passive form from pachati. Pachati makes its passive in pachyate. Or it could be a class 4 atmanepada verb, pachyate. The form of it creates an ambiguity in Sanskrit. It could be one or the other depending on context. So either a passive, it is cooked, or an atmane, it ripens. And this pachyate, in either meaning, bear in mind now, either it ripens or is cooked, becomes pachyati in Pali. So when you see pachyati in Pali, there is, and the context will usually make it clear which is meant, but there is an inherent linguistic ambiguity in a word like pachyati, because it could be the passive of to cook is cooked, like a meal is being cooked, or it could be the equivalent of the class 4 atmanepada verb in Sanskrit, pachyate. Here clearly it is an intransitive verb, because your evil deed is not being cooked. Your evil deed is ripening. Pachati. So yava papam na pachati, so long as that evil does not ripen. In other words, ripen in the sense of producing a karmic effect that comes back on you. So before this, so he's done the evil deed, it hasn't yet ripened. In other words, it hasn't come back to him in the form of bad karma, or karmic result. That's why madhuva manyati, he wrote, oh, this is lovely. This is like honey, balo. Yava papam napachati, so long as the evil does not ripen. Yadacha pachati. This cha normally means and, can also mean but. Here it could mean and or but when it ripens, and when it ripens. In English, probably be better to say but. That's what he thinks now. But when it ripens, yadacha pachati. But when it ripens, papamatta balo. Sorry, yadacha pachati papam. When the papa, when the evil ripens, atta. Here then, atta balo dukkham nigacchati. Then the fool dukkham nigacchati. Gacchati, we know, goes. Ni has the meaning of into or down. Nigacchati, goes into, goes down into dukkha, goes down into an evil state. I'll read it again. Madhuva manyati balo yava papan napachati. Yadacha pachati papam attabalo dukkham nigacchati. Good, and that's it on this verse.